This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Shalom Aleichem, good morning, Bruchim Haboyim, and Shalom Aleichem to our viewers on Torah Anytime. I want to dedicate this year for the Hatzlacha of Ben Zion Ben Dosai and his family, the Refuah Shalema of Chaim Meir Dov Ben Yente, and a happy birthday to my dear friend Rabbi Dr. Eliyahu Yaakov Bachko from the Five Towns, him and his family, Dr. Chasya, his kids, Dov Ber, Tzivya Sheina, Rachel Malka, and Sarah Sima, Emet Hashem, should enjoy Siyata Dishmaya in all their endeavors. Emet Hashem, today we'll speak about, today's the Yotzat of Basai. I think we spoke about him last year or 2 years ago. Emet Hashem will speak about Halacha, Hashkafa, Agada, some riddles, some stories, some exciting chidushim. Hashem, if you have a chumash near you, you may want to use it a little later to look inside. So if you have a chumash near you,
you have to tell us the place.
Yeah, we will when we get there. Hashem. So let's start the first famous Rashi on Im Lavan Garti. I lived with Lavan. Rashi says, don't read it as Garti, rather.
What Rashi? What pasuk?
We're at Lamed Beis Hey, at the beginning. Lamed Beis Lev Hey. So Rashi says, Garti begimatia is Tayag. Tilo im Lavan Rasha Garti. Vetayag mitzvos Shamarti. And I kept 600 mitzvahs. 613. V'lo lamati mimaisav harayim. And I didn't learn from his evil deeds. When Yaakov Avinu saw the wicked activity that Lavan was involved with, he learned how much one should distance himself from disgusting things like those things that Lavan was involved with. And this is what Rashi really means, and this is what Yaakov was saying. Where did I get the koyach to withstand the temptation of the Yetzer Hara? Where did I get it from? From the fact that I lived with Lavan, and I saw everything that he was involved with. And I saw his type of life is such a vain, empty life. There's no true hana. I learned from that to say no to the Yetzer Hara. Now we go back to Rashi and we read it a little differently. Before we read it, V'tayag mitzvahs shamarti, and I kept 613 mitzvahs, v'lo lamadeti, mima'asav harayim, and I didn't learn from Lavan's ways. That's not what Rashi is saying. V'tayag mitzvahs shamarti, and you're asking how? How is it possible? How were you able to say no? Where did you learn how to say no? V'lo, the word no. Lamadeti mima'asav harayim. That I learned how to say no from the bad deeds, from the evil activity that Lavan was involved with. V'lo, the word no, I learned mima'asav harayim. And that is what Chazal instituted to us. To say when one leaves Beis HaMedrash, and we say it every Siyum Masechet Emet Hashem this week, coming close. Daf Yomi is going to finish Barabasa. Anu ratzim, vehem ratzim. Anu ratzim l'chayei olam haba, vehem ratzim l've'er shachas. Why are we running l'chayei olam haba? Because we see how they are running l've'er shachas. Because we see what it leads, this type of life. Without Torah, without mitzvahs, without connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's going to lead you chas v'shalom to be'er shachas. And therefore that propels us to action to run to chayei olam haba. And since we mentioned there's a siyum next Tuesday, Barabasa Emet Hashem, in the nusach of the Hadran Alach, which we just quoted a little from, there is another line that we say, thank you very much, Ribbon Shalom, shesamta chelkenu mi yoshvei Beis HaMedrash, v'lo samta chelkenu mi yoshvei kranos. Inconsistency. You're switching from plural to singular. You should either say, thank you very much, Ribbon Shalom, shesamta chelkenu mi yoshvei Beis HaMedrash, singular, v'lo samta chelkenu miyoshvei keren, or samta chelkenu miyoshvei batei midrashot, plural, v'lo samta chelkenu miyoshvei kranot, plural. But you keep switching. Beis HaMedrash is one, kranot is many. Why the inconsistency? Rebbe Yoshiv Zatzal, what a beautiful insight. Says Rebbe Yoshiv, Yoshvei Kranos, those people who were sitting out there on the fence. Sometimes you see them in this corner, and sometimes on the other corner, and they keep switching from place to place, from place to place. Why? Because they never can be really happy. The world is very alluring, and the world promises you, if you go here, then you'll have everlasting happiness. If you go there, if you purchase this, if you go on this vacation, if you go this, then you'll be happy. So they try. And they keep going from place to place, from corner to corner, from corner to corner. And therefore you'll always find him in a new corner. But a person who's connected to Ribbon Shalom, what does he need? One stender, one Gemara, one Beis Medrash, and he's happy. Baruch Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Samta Chelkenu Miyoshvei Beis HaMedrash, I don't need more than one Beis Medrash. And I'm not like those people outside that have to keep traveling, to keep moving from one place to another, from one corner of the street to another, because they think that's where they're going to get the simcha, the artificial simcha. The true simcha is in one Beis Medrash, one Gemara, one stender. You don't need more than that. And that's what we thank Ribbon Shalom for. I'm reading to you a pasuk. Vayomer, Yaakov says, Im yavo Esav el machane ha'achas vehikahu vaya machane ha'nish'ar lifleita. Achas is zachar or nekeva? Nekeva. So machane is nekeva. Im yavo Esav el machane ha'echat. So machane is nekeva. And right after that you say, Vehikahu. Hikahu is Lashon Zachar or Nekeva? Zachar. So if you're going to strike the Machane, so Machane is Zachar. Vaya HaMachane HaNish'ar, not HaNish'eret. So Machane is Zachar or Nekeva? Zachar. But you said Achas. Again, inconsistency. What is it? Rashi is bothered by it. And Rashi says, don't worry. Machane can be used in both. It's Zachar and Nekeva. And Rashi gives other examples. Shemesh, Ruach, Eish, all these words. The Gemara in the beginning of Kiddushin says the word Derech can be used in both. Zachar and Nekeva. There's a sefer called Imrei Avraham. Reb Meir Avraham, Israel. I think about 80 or 90 years ago, he was in Europe and then he was in the States. And in Parshas Vayishlach, he says the following. One year in Parshas Vayishlach, I was traveling in the States. He's not telling us exactly where and what town he got to. And the local rabbi there, he writes, the Haredi rabbi there, asked me to join him in his shul. And I said, I will. Just before I left my hotel to go to shul, somebody came to me and said, you know, there's no mechitza there. It's all mixed. Men and women together. I decided I'm not going to that shul and I'm davening privately. I'm davening bichidus in my hotel room. And that's what I did. Motzei Shabbos, I meet this rabbi, and he starts yelling at me. We waited for you. You said you're coming. Where were you? No, I daven b'yichidus in my hotel. You daven b'yichidus? Don't you know what the Gemara says? Brachos chaf aleph amud beis. When you daven b'yichidus, when you can daven b'tzibur, it's as if you didn't daven. That's the language of the Gemara. Why did you daven in the hotel? How come you didn't come? We waited for you. So he says, I told this rabbi, look, at the beginning of the Parsha, Rashi says there's some words in Lashon Kodesh that can be used for Zachar and for Nekeva. So I looked in the list, and there's Machane, and there's Shemesh and Ruach and Esh, and all kinds of words that can be used in Zachar and Nekeva. And I was looking also for the word Tzibur. And the word Tzibur is not on the list. It didn't make it to the list. Meaning, Tzibur is only Lashon Zachar. Mimele, if you don't have a Mechitza and men and women together, you don't have a Tzibur, you have a Machane. Then I looked at Parshas Kisisa. Moshe Rabbeinu, the pasuk says, Moshe yikach es ha'oel, v'nata lo michutz la'machane, harchek me'amachane. Moshe Rabbeinu stayed away from machane, because machane denotes men and women together, mixed. Tzibur is only men, but you don't have a tzibur there. You have a machane. Machane, stay away.
I got into that situation with also some come down to my shul all the way out in my house. I get there, I start to daven, and I look, some new women down there, right there also. I wasn't sure what to do.
Did you also use this pasuk?
You know what? It must have been in the DNA, because I realized it said, come down to my shul. We had down to milk every day.
Right. A whole big camp is arriving at Esav. Hundreds of cattle, animals, a lot of kinderlach, a lot of children. Vayisa es einav vayar, and he lifts his eyes and he sees es hanashim. He sees the women. You can see all the animals, hundreds of them, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. But he chooses to see something else because that's where his head is. That's what he wants to see, and therefore he sees the nashim first before anything else. Shmiras Einayim. Rabbi said, the riddle of the week, can it be that one goes to Beis Din. It's a court case. Nezikin. Somebody damaged someone. If the person is careful in Shmiras Hayinayim, he will win the court case. If he's not careful in Shmiras Hayinayim, he will lose. Just because of that. Can it be Shmiras Hayinayim can actually make you money? If you're careful Shmiras Hayinayim, you're going to win. The Beis Din is going to pass in your favor. If you're not, you lose the court case. Can it be? Some of you are saying yes, it can be. That's true. Just, if you don't mind, give me the source.
They walked into a lady in the street looking at the ground all the time and knocks her over.
That's not good. That's because of Shmiras Hayinayim, he's going to be charged and he's going to lose the case. I'm looking something that because he was careful in Shmiras Hayinayim, he guarded his eyes as he should, he's going to win the court case.
No, but that happened because he was guarding his eyes. Maybe that's the potter for him.
I'm sorry?
Maybe because he was guarding his eyes, you'd let him off.
Adam muad le'olam, and one should be careful and watch where he goes. You know what they say? The first look is free. You start paying for the second. So you're allowed to look where you're going, not to bump into things, and then you can use what the Ramban says in his Igeres, that you look down.
You said earlier you keep Torah and Mitzvot, and yet you would have bad midot. So,
what's the court case? A person damaged another person, and because he's careful, Shmiras Hayinayim, the Dayan says, you win the case. He's not careful, he loses. Can it be?
but he does Shemira Hayinayim.
Choshen Mishpat, La'aloche, Shulchan Aruch. Pilei Ploim Aruch HaShulchan. Mamish, unbelievable. Choshen Mishpat, Shin Tzadi Gimel, Seif Gimel. In the middle of Seif, Aruch HaShulchan tells us a story. Umaise Be'isha Achas. Aruch HaShulchan says there was a lady that came over to her neighbor. She wanted to knead and bake her challah in her house. They were doing renovations in her house. The oven wasn't working. I don't know why. So she goes over to her neighbor and she starts kneading. Before she starts kneading, she folds up, she rolls her sleeves. Household members, as soon as they saw that, it's not derech eretz, it's not proper, Shmiras Hayinayim, they walked away. She is by herself in the kitchen. The goat of the balabais, of the owner, comes to the kitchen, takes some of the dough, chokes and dies. And the Dayanim say, lady, you saw that no one's around. These people are careful in Shmiras Hayinayim. So it's your responsibility. She says, but it's not my goat. It's the Balabais' goat. I'm in his house. Yeah, but you saw everybody steps away because they didn't want to see your arms. We're not talking about it all the way up to the arm. We're talking about here. She just folded up the sleeves. But since they're careful in Shmiras Hayinayim, she loses and she has to pay the value of the goat. Continues the Aruch HaShulchan and says, but if they are not careful in Shmiras Hayinayim and they stay there, oh, so you're the owner, why are you not watching your goat? They will lose the case just because they are careful or not careful. V'hakol lefi re'us hadayan, that's what the Aruch HaShulchan says. V'ayin bataz, the Taz brings this idea. In Seif Kotman Gimel over there, Choshen Mishpat, Shin Tzadi Gimel, Pilei Ploim. Being careful in Shmiras Hayinayim can actually make you money or, Chalila, make you lose money. Vayivasei Yaakov elevadoi. Shmiras Hayinayim. Watching your eyes. Shomer pivu l'shoinu, if you watch your mouth, shomer mitzaros nafsho. Vayivasei Yaakov elevadoi. He stayed away, stayed by himself. And therefore what happened? Vayavek ish imoy, the minister of Esav, starts fighting. The Zohar HaKodesh says, Tazria, Daf Mem Hei Amud Aleph. Vayavek ish imoy, and he fought with him, the minister of Esav. Mikan lamadnu, from here we learn. Somebody who's by himself, alone at night, or even during the day, bebayis hamiyuchad, away from everybody else, or he walks by himself at night, could be harmed. Because you see, the passage says, Vayivaser Yaakov levado, he was by himself. And right after that, what happened? Vayavek ish imoy. I think perhaps the idea of the Zohar, maybe we can add, somebody who walks in his own path. In other words, instead of going to Das Torah, instead of going in the path that Chazal and our rabbis paved for us, he's creating a new path. He's deviating and branching off and creating something new. Vayivasa Yaakov levado, if you're going by yourself, be careful. Vayavek ish imoy. If one is not be'achdus with Klal Yisrael, so therefore he is by himself. Vayivasa Yaakov levado. If you're by yourself, this is potentially very dangerous. Vayeavik ish imoy. And this is already alluded to in Pirkei Avos. Rabbi Chachinai, Perek Gimel, Mishnah Dalet, he says, Ve'hamehalech baderech yechidi, one who walks by himself, what's going to happen to him? Areze mischayev benafshoy. Can be lethal. It's lethal not just technically speaking, you're by yourself, nobody's protecting you, so a terrorist can come and harm you. It's also spiritually. You go by yourself, you go without achdus, you go on your own new path. That's dangerous. Don't leave the path that is paved for us by the Kadmonim, by Chazal, by the Rishonim, by our rabbis.
One group of people here very much held one should go up on their own. The people, rest of and others that emphasise it's both of us going up into the field and just contemplating the share.
I heard half of what you said, not the whole thing. What did you say?
People, it's both of us, it's called, like restaurant.
No. Isboidedus, when you go, you try to connect to Ribbon Shalom in the more intense way, in the same way that the rabbis established for us. You're not creating a new path in Yiddishkeit. You're not allowing things which are not allowed.
You're on your own, you got into some field on your own.
You're on your own for a short time to connect with the Kodesh Baruch Hu on a higher level, without any the disturbances of the people around you, no interference. That's not considering creating something new.
It's not dangerous to be like in the field.
You only go to a place which is not dangerous. So do his bodedus during the day. And at night, do it in a safe, in a secure place. Gid Anashe. We're not allowed to eat Gid Anashe. Comes Rabbeinu Ephraim and says, Hanashe, Hey, Nun, Shin, Hey. Is just like Sheni. Shnai, 2. Nashe has Shin and Nun. Sheni has Shin and Nun. Hanashe is a Hey and Hey. So in 5 it's 10, that's Yud. So Sheni is Hanashe. To tell you, Shnei Gid Hanashe, right and left are both Asul. But then he says, I will reveal to you a secret. Rabbeinu Ephraim is one of the Baalei HaTosfos, one of the Rishonim. Sod, a secret. Yizahir kol adam. Be very careful. When you go to sleep, do not put your hand on the sciatic nerve, on Gid Hanashe, because if you do, the ministers in charge of the dreams will come and swallow you up. That's the language of Rabbeinu Ephraim. It's a secret. Sod. Be careful. Yizahir kol adam. Don't put your hand on your thigh, on Gid Hanashe, when you're sleeping at night, because the minister in charge of dreams may come and swallow you up.
The right or the left?
What's that?
The right or the left or either one?
He just told us, Sheni, it's both the right and left are awesome.
I thought we don't eat one of them we don't eat.
Anyways, we don't eat because it's etz be'alma. It's like a piece of wood. The machlokes is noisen tam begidin or not. Machlokes in chulim if the Gid Hanashe actually has any flavor or not. And that basically bears a question. According to the opinion that there is no flavor, it's a piece of wood. So what's the big deal when they're telling you, you're not allowed to eat it? Shkoyach, I wasn't planning to. You're not allowed to eat the table. Thank you very much. I wasn't planning to. So what's the big penalty? You can't eat it. Who wants to eat a piece of wood? It doesn't, it's a piece of wood. You would want to chop, grind a table and put it in your meat?
No, do the goyim take it out or they just grind it up?
But what's the big deal that they tell you you can... Anyways, I'm not crazy about this. It's a piece of wood. Etz be'alma. The Chizkuni and the Hadar Zkenim and the Torah, both Rishonim, they both say this is a penalty. The penalty is because the brothers were mighty heroes and they could have escorted Yaakov. And because they didn't accompany him, he was by himself and the minister of Esav came and harmed him. If they would have stayed with him, it wouldn't happen. And therefore, as a penalty and a reminder to be studious, zrizin, in the mitzvah of levaya, to escort your company, from now on you can never eat it, and that will remind you on a constant basis, you weren't so careful about this mitzvah. But what's the big deal? Anyways, I don't want to eat from it. It's the tircha. It's the tircha involved. In fact, we know that the niku, taking out this nerve, the sciatic nerve, is very difficult. And many don't know how to do it. Mimele, they weren't careful to be toreach, to burden themselves, to accompany Yaakov. Now the midah keneged midah is, from now on you're going to have a lot of tircha. to take it out. So we are ready for Mashiach for a long time. 1956 years and change. When he will be revealed, soon, speedily in our days, where will that take place? Tzfat.
Tzfat.
Any stocks and buildings in Tzfat?
Over the mountain.
I would love to hear a source. You have a source?
Tveria.
Tveria! Who told you Tveria?
There's a board about the umbilical cord of something that I heard once.
Soon we'll see.
Where is he going to appear for the first
The first time. Debut. And for the very first time, Mashiach Tzidkenu.
It would be by the by the kotel or
By the question.
next to the Mezamekdash.
Mazapela. Source?
Hebron.
Hebron. Why Hebron? More than Tzfat?
That's where the prayers go.
Har Zion, no?
How Zion? Where exactly? On the hotel?
Ayuna Mashiach Bahar Zion.
Moshiim, not Mashiach.
He must be one of them, no?
Who says that's where he's revealed? Maybe he's revealed in Spain. And then he travels to Har Zion.
So then he comes from
He's
Eretz
from
Edom.
the donkey, so he has to come
From Donkeyland. Where is that?
Eretz Edom?
It's a flying donkey.
Where does he come from?
From Eretz Edom, no? He comes?
Where in Eretz Edom?
I don't know.
Let's see. Almost everything you said is right. Almost. We'll see many opinions. Medrash Sechel Tov. Targum Yonasan ben Uziel as well. In Parshas Vayishlach, and that's why I'm asking this here. A place called Migdal Eder is mentioned. And that's the first place where Mashiach Tzidkenu will be revealed in. And it's a play on words. It works only in Hebrew. Kach Shmo Nikra Beruach HaKodesh. This Migdal Eder is called with Ruach HaKodesh. Shemisham Atid HaKodesh Baruch Hu. From there HaKodesh Baruch Hu in the future, Mitzvah Hashem, La'ador et Edro HaNe'edar Ben Mesanav. HaKodesh Baruch Hu will take his herd out, Migdal Eder, from those who hate him. And that's what Targum Yonasan ben Uziel says as well. So we have one opinion. Comes soon, in Mitzvah Hashem, coming. Soon you'll find out. Of course. It's mentioned in the Pasha. Yalkut Shimoni, Ishaya, Remez Taf Tzaditet. Besha shemelech HaMoshiach bo, oimed al gag, Beis HaMikdash. No, so that's where he's going to be revealed. Besha shemelech HaMoshiach ba, he's going to be standing al gag Beis HaMikdash, and that's where he's going to be revealed. You said it clearly. Yalkut Shimoni, Taf Tzaditet, in Ishaya. It sounds like Beshar that he comes. In other words, at the minute that he comes, where's he going to be? Al Gag Beis HaMikdash. He's going to be standing on the roof. Zohar HaKodesh, Shmois, Daf Reish Chaf Amud Aleph says he is going to be revealed first in the Galil. Doesn't tell us exactly where. In the Galil, somewhere. Gemara Rosh Hashanah Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Beis, Tveria. Rambam, Paskins, Hilchos Sanhedrin Perek Yudalet, Halacha Yud Beis. That's where the Sanhedrin starts from. Tveria. Remember, I used to daven almost every morning with Rabbi Yoshev Zatzal. There would be a fellow every so often who came from Tveria, very interesting fellow, who would ask very interesting questions. At one point we were escorting Rabbi Yoshev back home, and he almost got to the elevator. He is almost 100 years old at the time, 99 and change. He's walking slowly with his walker, and this guy starts yelling from the back. The Rambam Paskins in Hilchos Sanhedrin Perek Yudalet Halacha Yud Beis that the Sanhedrin will start from Tveria. So is there an Indian to buy an apartment in Tveria? Rabbi Yoshev takes his 100 years and slowly but surely turns around to this fellow looking at him and says to him, Ata choshev she'ata tiyeh b'Sanhedrin? Do you think you will be in the Sanhedrin? Because then I think you should buy maybe even more than one apartment, buy two. But if you don't think so, there's no Indian. Bamidbar Rabbah, Parsha Yud Aleph, Ois Beis, a new opinion. The Medrash over there says, the Mashiach will be revealed, then he will be concealed, and then he will be revealed again. And the Radbaz writes that he will be revealed in the Galil as well, so he's consistent with what the Zohar HaKodesh says. Eruvin, Mem Gimel Amud Beis, it's apparent over there that the first place that he will be revealed is in Lishkas Hagazis, close to where you guys were saying. So Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal explains, initially he will be revealed to the Chachamim in Lishkas Hagazis, that's where they sit. But to the Tzibur, publicly, he will make his first appearance in Migdal Eder, as we saw before from the Medrash and from the Yonasan Ben Uziel. With all these different opinions, now we can understand what the Rambam writes. The Rambam in Hilchos Melach in Perek Yud Beis Halacha Beis writes, all these things, how these will unfold, we don't know. The Dvarim are stumim, are not revealed by the words of the Nevi'im. The Chachamim don't have a direct Kabbalah, how it's going to work out. And he says, you should know, delving into these matters and trying to figure them out is not one of the principles and foundations of our faith. And therefore he says, don't make them an ikar and don't delve too much into them. When that happens, Emet Hashem, you will be there, you will see, and you will maybe be the first one to know. But until then, the focus should be Torah, mitzvahs, davening. This is not an ikar because we don't really know how things will play out. But, Emet Hashem, we said it this morning in Bava Tzion, V'nizke, v'nichyeh, v'nireh. Now, if anyone has a chumash near him, it's highly suggested to open Perek Lamed Hey, Pasuk Chaf Beis. Lamed Hey, Chaf Beis. Licheoira, we have a problem with Reuven. The pasuk says, what did Reuven do? Vayi bishkon Yisrael, Chav Beis, 35:22. Vayi bishkon Yisrael ba'aretz hahi. Vayelech Reuven vayishkav esbila pilegesh aviv. Vayishma Yisrael. Vayu bnei Yaakov shneim asar. What a strange pasuk, the way this is built. Again. Vayi bishkon Yisrael ba'aretz hahi. When Yaakov was in that land. Vayelech Reuven vayishkav esbila pilegesh aviv. Vayishma Yisrael. And by the way, Vayu bnei Yaakov shneim asar, in the same pasuk. What's the connection? What's going on here? Did Reuven sin or not? That pasuk clearly says, Vayelech Reuven vayishkav esbila pilegesh aviv. Did he sin or not? Obviously he sinned. But the Gemara in Shabbos Nun Amud Beis says, Kol ha'omer Reuven chata eino ela toyeh. If you say Reuven sinned, you are mistaken. It's a superfluous word. What do you mean? Eino ela toyeh. Isn't it easier to say? Kol ha'omer Reuven chata. Anyone who says Reuven sinned, toyeh. Eino ela toyeh. What kind of language is that? Ibn Shlita explains, Eino ela toyeh means your whole mahus, your whole essence is mistaken. You think Reuven can be mistaken. Make a mistake. Such a grave mistake can sin. And this is consistent. The whole Gemara over there says, Kol ha'omer David chata eino ela toyeh. Kol ha'omer this chata, this chata, this chata. Eino ela toyeh. If this is your approach to the Torah, to the Nevi'im, eino ela toyeh. Your whole approach, your whole attitude is wrong. I've never been Shlita.
Okay, regarding what the sin was, I mean, but we do say that Reuven was punished for this, no? For whatever it was he did. So what if it's not a sin? He did sin.
Did David HaMelech sin? With Bathsheba?
Does he get punished for that ma'aseh? I don't know.
Did David HaMelech sin? We read on the surface, big time sin. And Chazal say no. She was divorced, there's no problem. No problem. When your name is David HaMelech, you're judged differently. With Tzadikim HaKadosh Baruch Hu's medaktik ichut asara. But Lemaisa, there was no sin, especially not the way that this is written. The pasuk here says, Vayelech Reuven, Vayishkav esbila pilegesh aviv. Did he do this? But the Torah says yes. Rabbi said dessert for 3 weeks. Comes Rabbeinu Achido in Pnei David, and he says, Shamati merav Ashkenazi. I heard from Ashkenazi rabbi, in the name of the Rema, that the Rema darshan like this. Look at the pasuk. Vayelech Reuven. Reuven started walking. Where is he walking? Reuven started walking back and forth, making a lot of noise, stamping his feet. Walking back and forth. Where? Why? Because he heard that Yaakov, his father, wants to be with his concubine, with Bila. Why did Reuven start walking? Vayishkav es Bila pilegesh aviv. Because Yaakov wants to be with his own pilegesh. Vayishkav es Bila pilegesh. Who wanted to be with her? Aviv, Yaakov. And Reuven was upset. What about my mother? What about Leah? You're going with a pilegesh with Bila? You should be with my mother. And therefore Reuven was walking right outside Yaakov Avinu's bedroom, because the halacha is you can't be with your wife, you can't be with your concubine if somebody is there. So Reuven made a lot of noise to make sure Yaakov is aware that he is there, so he won't be with her. Vayishma Yisrael. Yaakov Avinu heard it, so he wasn't able to be with her. And as a result of that, Vayidne Yaakov only 12, there are only 12 tribes and not 13. Because if Yaakov Avinu wouldn't hear it, he would be with Bila and we would have another kid. We would have 13 kids. Says the Chido. And I heard that after the Ramah darshan this, Reuven came to him in a dream and said to him, Yasher Koyach. But then the Chido continues and says, and now I got Rabbeinu Ephraim on the Torah. Rabbeinu Ephraim is one of the Rishonim, by the Tosis. And he darshaned Barabim as follows. Vayhi Bishkon Yisrael Ba'aretz. That means Yaakov Avinu was living in Eretz Yisrael. And Reuven got so upset. How come you were with Bila, my mother's concubine, instead of my mother? Why did you leave my mother? He was so upset. Vayelech Reuven. Reuven left Eretz Yisrael. I don't know where he traveled to, but he left the country. You know why? Because Vayishkav es Bila pilegesh aviv. Because Yaakov, not Reuven, Yaakov was his pilegesh instead of being with his mother, with Leah. Reuven heard. Reuven left us. Yaakov heard, Reuven left us. So Yaakov called him and says, come back. I'll explain. He sent them a ticket. He flew right back. Vayishma Yisrael. Yaakov heard this, so he called Reuven to appease him. He came back, and therefore, Vayihu bnei Yisrael shnei masar, and therefore we have 12 tribes and not 11. Because Reuven was away, we only have 11. But now that Reuven came back, now there are 12 tribes. Continues Apnei David the Chidah and says, and I heard that after Rabbeinu Ephraim said this Barabim, Reuven came to him in a dream and gave him a kiss on his forehead. Mitzvah Hashem, we should merit to get these type of kiss. These types of kisses from Reuven HaTzadik and all Shiftei Ka.
A question. What was the whole problem? He has 2 wives and 2 concubines. So in some there was some rotation. So what was
Rashi says there was a rotation. But as a Reuven, seeing that he has his mother, Leah, and you're going with Bila, the Shifra of my mother, he was Mekana to his mother.
After that time?
Maybe every time, but this time is recorded.
And also it's interesting, it seems that every time there was a union, they always conceived on the first time. Like a day with you.
That's because that's when the Torah is interested to tell us that that's when this happened. It doesn't mean that every single time. This is when it happened. It doesn't say B'pam HaRishoina. There's no such word.
According to what we just said, had he been there, he would have a 13th child.
Maybe. The Torah says, Vayihu Shnei Masar. Maybe because of that, it was supposed to be number 13. We have a mitzvah to be doyesh b'zchut, judge favorably. Chazal say, Kol ha'omer Reuven chata eino ela toye. That means we must try to work it out. How does it work? So we found 2 ways. They're the opposite. But in both ways, Reuven did not sin. Reuven didn't do anything wrong. It's Yaakov who was with his concubine. He's also allowed to. Nobody sinned.
So the punishment that he gets later, that's not for the sin, that's for he was on his level. That's the idea.
If I will walk in Times Square and I'm going to start saying nasty things about the president, what do you think they're going to do to me? Nothing. No. Another Meshuggah. There's plenty of them in Times Square. But if the same exact words will be said by the vice president, not even in Times Square, anywhere else, you know what they're going to do to him? First of all, you're fired. And in different countries, decapitated. Why? Just because he is closer to the top. With tzaddikim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is medakdek yichut asara. The closer you are to Ibn Shalom, we expect a different behavior out of you. And that's true to David HaMelech, to Reuven, to Shlomo, to any of these people mentioned in the Gemara there. But the Gemara says what it says, the simple meaning of the pasuk, that's not what they did. But it's viewed as such a big sin because of who you are. That's the meaning of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is medakdek with his tzaddikim, yichut asara.
He was destined for Shiftei Kah. How could he say
I'm sorry?
he was supposed to have Shiftei Kah? How could he have 13?
We have a mitzvah to be melamed zchus on Reuven. We just did. He can't have 13 because Baruch Hashem, Reuven comes in and steps in, and we still only have 12 Shiftei Kah. What's the problem?
How could you say he could have had a 13?
Because if my name is the Rema, I can say it. What's the problem? You're not allowed to be melamed zchus? You know what can potentially happen if Yaakov is going to be again with Bila? Potentially it can be 13. So Torah says, no, there's only 12. Why? The zchus of Reuven, that prevented the 13 is if.
There's 13 with Ephraim and Menashe. I think it answers
Oh.
the question.
Ephraim and Menashe, you do have 13. Rabbi Yisai, Perek Lamed Hey, Pasuk Yud Ches.
Sorry, how come I thought that
How come what?
Zilpa and Bilhah, they were like, he made them full wives. So why did he refer to as Shifchat still?
They are called concubines. Reuven knows this. And Reuven knows that his mother was married first, and she is Leah. She's from Leah and Rachel. And she is, the Bilhah, the Shifcha, is secondary to my mother. He was mekana to his mother.
But Yaakov gave him the same status as Rachel and Leah.
I'm not saying Yaakov is not allowed to be with him. He's allowed to. Are they considered four imahos? No. No. Chamisha, mi yodeya, chamisha, ani yodeya, chamisha, chumshei Torah, arba imahot. Who are these four? Who are these four? Yesimech Elokim, like whom? Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. Where did Bilhah and Zilpah go to? Concubines, the Shvachos.
Wasn't it a denial to Leah? He took the bed to Bilhah.
That's what Reuven felt. But he's allowed to. It's his shifcha. He's allowed to be with her. But Reuven felt it's a gnai to my mother. Wouldn't you feel like that?
It wasn't. Should he not gone first after?
Lemaise, it's not gnai because she is one of his concubines. And he's allowed to be with her. But as a kid, when you see your mother, his name is Leah Tzedekis. Last week I think we spoke about what a big tzedekis she was. So Reuven was mekana to his mother. Why not? Perek Lamed Hey, Pasuk Yud Ches. Vahi betzes nafsha kimesa. Rachel is dying. Just before she dies, Vatikra Shema, and she calls her son Ben Oini. Yaakov says, what did you call him? Meh, I don't like this name. Ve'aviv Karala Binyamin. Aviv says, I don't like this name. He goes to the shul Mishaberach Ve'ikar Shmo B'Yisrael Binyamin. Imagine. The mother calls the kid a certain name and father says, I don't like it. He goes and changes his name. There was a widow that went to Shlomo Zalman Auerbach and said, my husband just died. Tragic event. And I just had a kid. 2 months after he died, I had this little kid, this boy. My husband's name was Simcha. I want to know, should I call my little child Simcha? I have two problems. First, you don't name for a person who died young. Under the age of 50 is considered young. And he died earlier, but more than that. If I call him Simcha, it's as if I'm ignoring the tragedy that just happened to the family. How can I call him Simcha? So maybe it's better to call him a sad name, to always remember. He should remember his father, not that he ever met him, and I should remember, and the whole family should remember. So Shlomo Zalman said to her, look, Rachel called Binyamin Ben Oini. What's Ben Oini? The son of my pain. She felt you have to commemorate what happened here. And Yaakov said, that's no good. He is always going to be thinking, maybe I'm responsible for the fact that my mother died. He is always going to be carrying on his shoulder this heavy load. I am the son of her pain. That's not right. And therefore Yaakov stepped in and says, no. We're going to call him Binyamin. Yamin Hashem, Oy Sachai, Yamin Hashem, Oy Mima. You still have some kind of a commemoration of the name Ben Oini. It's pretty close, Binyamin to Ben Oini. But you're not going to have him schlep on his shoulders this heavy load. And therefore Shlomo Zalman told her, call him Simcha. And this will remind you of the Simcha, Emet Hashem, that you will have. Le'asid lavo, Emet Hashem, Tchiyas Samei soon. And this kid is not going to bear on him the heavy yoke that I'm responsible. Who knows? I'm going to always think about the tragedy. But here you have the name Simcha. It is the name of your father, but it's a happy name. So Emet Hashem he's going to have Simcha throughout his life. Interesting halachic shaila in Yana de Yoima, which is relevant to our parsha because in our parsha we learn about all the animals that Yaakov Avinu sends to Esav. There's a moshav up north called Dalton. Many know it from the winery that they have there, Dalton wine. But there's also farmers there. There's a farmer there that in the last few months, 15 of his cows got injured from the missiles that are cousins, the aerial souvenirs that are loving cousins send us because they love us so much. There's a moshav called Beis Hillel, and that's right next to Nachal Snir, the original Nachal Snir, not the Nachal Snir street that I live on, the original one, right by the Chirmon. And there's a guy who 5 sheep got injured from the missiles. There's a fellow in Kiryat Shmona whose dog was injured, and they all come with the same question. These animals are suffering. Do I have the obligation to try and heal them? Do I have to spend a lot of money to take them to the vet and try to heal them? Can I? Should I? Is it the right thing to do to kill them and get them out of their misery? How much should a person spend on Tza'ar Ba'alei B'chaim? And this is a general question. A dog owner, a cat owner, any pet, the dog is sick. Do you have to take him to the vet? Is there a mitzvah in healing your animal? What do you say?
Could be that the issue is to cause pain, but by not doing anything proactive, meaning if you want to spend thousands to heal your animal, rishus beyado.
Just like you had rishus to buy it.
Huh?
Just like you had rishus to buy, to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy this animal.
The difference between...
I want to know if you have an obligation, a chiyuv.
You're the owner.
It's yours, it makes sense.
It's mine.
Yeah, no, it's Tza'ar Ba'alei B'chaim.
You're responsible.
Do I have to heal your animal?
I don't think so.
No.
You're responsible. It's your animal.
My animal. I have to. I should stop at nothing, just like I treat my kid? Not so sure about that.
No.
What's the limit?
Comes first.
$1,000, $1,200.
The limit is when it cheshbon someone who's on a higher level, like a human being.
He doesn't have any children.
No, so
He only has a dog. So you should treat it like his son that he doesn't have? No limits?
I don't know.
You want to say something?
I think it's got to do with somehow that Yaakov made sukkos for the animals.
And therefore?
He took care of his animals.
Because he wants to continue enjoying his animals, to ride them, to use their wool, to milk them. He's going to need them.
It's about tashkis to put more money into the animal than it's worth.
I'm asking Tza'ar Ba'alei B'chaim, not Bal Tashchis.
Maybe the shikul of the two.
So Bal Tashchis overrides Tza'ar Ba'alei B'chaim?
Meaning not more than the worth of the animal. Maybe you should just kill it if it's really...
So you want to kill it? Nice.
If someone's going to cost him $10,000 to heal his animal,
But his name is Bill Gates.
and he can get $10,000 to the kollel, maybe it'd be better to give it.
Maybe. You're not sure the Talmud Torah is greater than Tza'ar Ba'alei B'chaim. You're hesitating. Nechezei Anan. Let's see. Bepashtus, this is an open shot case. Shulchan Aruch Hoshen Mishpat, Siman Reish Ayin Beis, Seif Tes, we learned, the Rema Paskins, Tza'ar Ba'alei B'chaim, Deoraisa. The Machlokes is the source of the sugya, Bab Metzia Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, whether Tza'ar Ba'alei B'chaim is a Derabanan or Deoraisa, and we Paskin Lemaisa, it's a Deoraisa. But Tza'ar Ba'alei B'chaim means don't go and cause sorrow to the animal. What about when I see the animal already suffering? Do I have to actively go and do something? I didn't cause this pain. It's kum ve'ase as well. Am I supposed to minimize and reduce their existing suffering? Or I'm not allowed to cause them new sorrow. You can't go and hit the animal. But who says that I have to actively go and try and help the animal? What's the source for this? Prika, the mitzvah prika. You see the animal with a heavy load, you have to go and help unload the animal. What does that mean? You didn't cause this. L'chora, we should say that this mitzvah only applies to the owner of the animal that loaded a few hours ago. It put the heavy load and now the animal says, get this out of me. So the owner of the animal should go and do this. But the mitzvah is incumbent on all of us. You see from here, it's even bekum ve'ase. Be active and go and reduce the pain of everyone. Everyone who sees it.
Doesn't cost any money.
Prika is to help the animal then?
What is prika?
It's to unload him?
There's te'ina and prika. Te'ina is to help your friend load the animal. Prika is to help them unload.
It's to help him, no? It's for the animal?
Because of Tsar Baalei Chaim. That's the source of Tsar Baalei Chaim. The Rishonim bring 10 different sources. But in Bab Metzia Lamed Beis, that is the source. Tsar Baalei Chaim.
Over there, if I'm not mistaken, that tomorrow, it says that Imoy means with him. He can't just stand by and hold.
Oh, you see, it's limited. So if he sits there and says, well, you have the mitzvah to help my animal. I'm going to sit, enjoy myself, start working. Do you have to start working? No! I have to help him.
Right, and secondly,
So you see, it's limited.
It doesn't cost him any money. No one says...
It may cost him money because he can't go back to work. But you see that it is limited. I have to be active to a point. Great. Is there Tsar Baalei Chaim when one kills an animal? I'm not causing it to suffer when it's alive. Tsar Baalei Chaim is only when it's alive or even to kill it. Famous tshuva of the Noida Yehuda in 2 places, Madura Kama Yoredea Simen Pei Gimel, and in Madura Tinyana Yoredea Simen Yud. He was asked by a hunter who says, I love hunting. Am I allowed to go to the woods and hunt? The one who was asking wanted to know because of Tsar Baalei Chaim and wanted to know because of Baal Tashchis. And the Noida Yehuda says to him, there is no Tsar Baalei Chaim. Tsar Baalei Chaim is when the animal is alive. There is no Baal Tashchis. You can kill the animal for whatever reason you want, if you're going to get a benefit from it. Baal Tashchis is when you kill for no good reason. When you destroy something for no good reason, but any reason that you want. For example, you want new leather shoes, so you can't kill the animal? It's Baal Tashchis. It's not Baal Tashchis. Any pleasure that I derive is not called Baal Tashchis. But then the Noida Yehuda takes him to town and says to him, tell me, but what's wrong with you? This is your enjoyment in life? What about emulating Ribono Shel Olam? V'rachamav al kol ma'asav, his mercy is upon all his creatures. What's wrong with you? And he also has a problem with him going to risk himself in the forest when it's dangerous. If you're doing it for parnasa, fine. But you're doing just as a hobby, who gave you permission? But as far as what you're asking, Tsar Baalei Chaim and Baal Tashchis, he says, there is no Tsar Baalei Chaim killing an animal. That's what the Noida Yehuda says. But the Shol Umeshiv says, yes, there is. And he brings a raya from Chulin Daf Zayin Amud Beis. Interesting story. Rebbe invited Rebbe Pinchas ben Yair to dine with him. The Pinchas ben Yair comes close and he sees that Rebbe has white mules. White mules are lethal animals. If it kicks a person, that's it. He will never heal. He will probably die. Pinchas ben Yair says, I'm not going in there. A place that has white mules? What kind of place is this? I'm not going. So Rebbe says to him, you know what I'll do? I'll remove their hooves. This way they won't be able to kick and cause any damage to anyone. So Pinchas ben Yair says to him, no, that's Tsar Baalei Chaim. So Rebbe says to him, you know what? I'll kill him. The Pinchas ben Yair says, no, that's Baal Tashchis. Medayik the Yam Shel Shlomo from here. The Taz brings him in Yoredea Simen Kufta Zayin. Once Pinchas ben Yair says, it's Tsar Baalei Chaim to remove their hooves, how come Rebbe said I'll kill them? It must be that's not Tsar Baalei Chaim. Otherwise he wouldn't suggest that, because I told you Tsar Baalei Chaim I don't like. You see from here, Medaik the Shol Umeshiv, that that killing the animal, this is the raya of the Noida Yehuda, to say that there is no Tsar Baalei Chaim when killing the animal. The Shol Umeshiv, he says differently. He's medayik from the mitzvah Tafnun Aleph, mitzvah Shchita of Sefer HaChinuch, that there is Tsar Baalei Chaim if one kills. So the Ben Yoyada over there says, so wait a second, in Chulin Daf Zayin, wait a second. If the Shol Umeshiv is right, and there is Tsar Baalei Chaim when killing an animal, so how come Reb Yehuda suggested to Pinchas ben Yair, I'll kill the animals? Says the Ben Yoyada, because he said, I will do that using some drugs. I'm not going to take a rifle and kill the animal. I'm going to give a drug. And says the Ben Yoyada, the Ben Ishchai, Lekule Alma, there is no Tsar Baalei Chaim. If you use it in an indirect way like that, you use a drug to kill the animal, then there is no Tsar Baalei Chaim. So according to the Shita of the Shol Umeshiv, that there is an issue of Tsar Baalei Chaim, you certainly can go and kill the animal. It's true that you didn't cause the pain, the missiles of our neighbors caused them, but you, with your own hands, can't go and kill the animal. But according to the Noida B'Yehuda, who says there is no issue of tzar ba'alei chaim when killing the animal, maybe you're not allowed to go and cause the animal sorrow, but if you see a behema that is suffering, you may not have the obligation to prevent its suffering, but maybe you are allowed to, maybe you're entitled to, maybe you should go and kill it. But, Bab Mitzia, again, in the source of the Sugya, Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, where we learn that according to the opinion that Tzar Ba'alei Chaim is deoraisa, it is learned from this mitzvah of Prika, you have to help unload the animal. The Torah says, even if you didn't cause the animal the pain, it's the owner who did it, you are still involved. So according to that, Lich'oira, we should say, with the Noida B'Yehuda, you may have an obligation, or at least you are entitled to go and kill the animal. The Orach Chaim HaKodesh writes a Chiddush from the land of Chidushim. In Parashas Achremos, Perek Yud Zayin, Pasuk Yud Aleph, I have to read it to you because otherwise I think you're not going to believe me. The Orach Chaim HaKodesh says like this. The Pasuk says, V'nesasim v'netativ lachem al ha-mizbeach. I'm giving you the blood to put on the Mizbeach, says the Orach Chaim HaKodesh. Yechaven hakasuv lehazir al nefesh habehema levar hamita. The Torah here is saying, don't kill animals unless you have a reason called ki lo nasan Hashem dam habehemos lanu. Why the Kosh Baruch Hu permit you the dam of the behema? Only lechaper al nafshosenu, to sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach. That's why the pasuk says netativ lachem al mizbeach. I'm giving this to you as permission to throw on the mizbeach to atone for your sins. But other than this reason, it's not given to us as a gift to do whatever we want with this. And his proof, the beginning of Masechet Sanhedrin, coming this week on Wednesday, the first Mishnah equates killing the animal to killing a person. You need 23 dayanim for killing Dina Nefashos, killing a person, and you need 23 dayanim for skila of the behema. You see that they're equated to tell you can't just go and kill because you feel like it. Lo hutra behema lishchot ela letzorchei besara. If you feel the urge, I have to eat the meat, fine. Because that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided. You're allowed to take the blood to sprinkle on Mizbeach. You're allowed to eat the meat, but other than that, you cannot kill, period. And that's a tremendous Chiddush of the Orach Chaim HaKodesh. Sefer Sha'arei HaZohar brings, the Margal Yisayam brings him, that many times the behema has a neshama reincarnated in it of a human. And that's why the shor haniskal, the shor that got the verdict of skila, has to be niskal, because then the neshama in it will have its rectification. Based on that, I'm not sure. Maybe, I guess it depends if you know that tzaddik who is reincarnated in that person. If you like that tzaddik, so kill this behema fast, so you finish his tikkun real fast. If you're not crazy about this person, maybe you should let it suffer, don't kill it, and you're going to prolong its tikkun. Tzaddik, l'shem shamayim, l'shem shamayim. It depends, I guess, how much you like this person. Is there a mitzvah to heal the animal? It's a general question. You have your dog and he is in pain, he is sick. Do you have a mitzvah to go and take him to the vet? Nedorim Lametches Amud Beis continues in Mem Aleph Amud Beis. The Gemara says, one who is muda hana mechaveiro. I'm never going to benefit from my friend. Yet his chaver is allowed to be merapehim refuas hanefesh, but not refuas mammon. The Gemara explains in Mem Aleph Amud Beis, what does that mean? Refuas nefesh means refuas gufoy. Refuas mammon, that's refuas behemto. In other words, you're not allowed to heal his behemah, but you are allowed to tell him, you should know, using this and this medication is going to be good for it. This is not going to be good for your animal. Why is that? The Ran writes, it's because of Hashavas Aveda. Hashavas is a mitzvah, and therefore you're allowed to. But Tosfos and the Rosh says healing one's animal is not considered Hashavas Aveda. Asks the Tal Torah, Rebmei Arik, he says, even though, let's say, there's no obligation to heal because of Hashavas Aveda, but why isn't no obligation to heal because of Tzar Ba'alei Chaim? From here, it proves the Dibos Moshe Feinstein that in fact, there is no mitzvah to heal because of Tzar Ba'alei Chaim, it's only because of Hashavas Aveda. Tzarich Iu. Because in Shabbos Kuf Kaf Ches Amud Aleph, we learn the Baisa, that a behema that fell on Shabbos to a pit, you're allowed to take pillows and whatever the behema needs, and to put it there to make it a little easier. You can't pull the behema out on Shabbos. It's mukseh. It's suffering down there. You're allowed to put pillows, and they allowed levatel kli mehechanu on Shabbos, and they allowed to be metaltem kelim muktzeh on Shabbos for the sake of tzar balei chaim. And from here, especially the Rosh learns, and that's what's paskin la'alocha Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim Simin Shin Chaf Seif Hey, that one is allowed to milk the behema, which is in pain because she is engorged. Why? To make it a little easier for it, tzar balei chaim. So they allowed Amir al-Enochi. You say this to the goy, go milk my behema. They allowed Amir al-Enochi because it's tzar balei chaim. Moed Cotton Daf Yud Amud Beis, we learn that you're allowed to do bloodletting for the behema if it needs it on Chol HaMoed. Even though Chol HaMoed you're not allowed to work, you're not allowed to do melacha. You're allowed to because of tzar balei chaim. You see, you're allowed to transgress an isur derabanan to prevent a tzar from the behema because there's a mitzvah. If that's the case, why not heal it that you're not chayav? Because the Gemara in the Nedarim says you're not chayav to heal it. It could be that what the Gemara in the Nedarim says is not necessarily about a behema who is in pain. The behema has cancer. It feels great right now, but it's spreading and it's going to die. If I know how to fix it, it's a Shabbos Aveda, potentially, according to that opinion of the Ran. But it's not necessarily that I'm obligated to do it because of tzar balei chaim. A person can be sick sometimes, but he doesn't have any tzar. The doctor says you have a few days to go, but he feels great. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the Gemara discusses over there a tzar of the behema, but it could be that when the behema in fact does have tzar balei chaim, we are, according to all opinions, obligated to heal it. The Eshel Avram, or Chaim, Siman Shin Hey, brings a fantastic raya that in Sheve Al Taise, being passive, there is no issue of tzar balei chaim. Where is his raya from? Fascinating. He goes to Nineveh. What happened in Nineveh? When they heard that the place is going to be turned over and destroyed, they decided to fast for 3 days and 3 nights. But not only them, the pasuk clearly says in Yoina, Perek Gimel, pasuk Zayin, they're the behemoths too. They starved them for 3 days and 3 nights. You see that actively you can't do tzar balei chaim, but passive, you know, I just didn't give them food. You're causing tzar balei chaim, but I'm just sheve al tais, I'm just passive. You see from here says yesh lavam, you're allowed to. It's a brilliant raya, but I think we can reject it easily in 2 ways. First of all, are you familiar with the chief rabbi of Nineveh? Do you know who he was? I don't know if they even had one. If they did have one, I'm not sure what his qualifications. Where did he do shimush by? By whom? I'm not so sure that we can rely. And this is the city of Nineveh. Who says we can rely on that? More than that, especially if we'll say that tzar balei chaim is not something that goyim are obligated in. It's not 7 mitzvahs b'nei noach. So how can you bring a raya from them as well? And more than that, it could be that just like people are allowed to cause themselves sorrow in order to do an atonement for their sins, you hear that the city is going to be uprooted, it's going to be destroyed. That means your animals are also going. So what's the difference? And if you think it moves the Kodesh Baruch Hu, that you're fasting for 3 days and 3 nights, and you think it's going to do the same when he sees the animals suffering, so lichora, you'd be allowed to do it. So I'm not sure that we can take a raya from here across the board. So for those 2 reasons, I'm not sure. So let me say back to our shaila. It seems that if he has the possibility to heal the animal, that's definitely the best thing to do. Especially that we have a mitzvah to do chesed with the animals, and that is based on the Medrash Tehillim, Perek Lamed Zayin. Amazing Medrash. Avraham Avinu met Shem ben Noach, Malki Tzedek. And he says to him, how'd you get out of the teva? How'd you do it? What was the schus that allowed you to step out? The whole world was destroyed. And Shem ben Noach says to him, it's that tzedakah we did in the teva. And Avraham Avinu says, tzedakah? Were there any aniyim in the teva? What tzedakah did you do? He says to him, we did tzedakah with the animals. Do you know, we didn't eat and we didn't sleep. And we kept running from one animal to the animals. Some animals are diurnal and some are nocturnal. Some eat in the day, some eat at night. And this guy says, I want more. I want seconds. Do you have anything more? Do you have dessert? And we kept running and running for a whole year. And for that merit that we did tzedakah with the animals, we were saved. And Avraham Avinu made a kal v'chomer. The Medrash says, Avraham Avinu said, if they did chesed with the animals and for that merit they were saved, how much more so that I will be saved if I do chesed with people. And that's why he established the eshel, achila Shtia Levaya. That's why he opened up this big hotel in Beersheba, because he heard about the chesed that they did with the animals. You see, there's an Indian, a big Indian, a mitzvah, to do chesed with the animals. Especially that we are commanded to walk in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's ways. Ma'hu rachum afata rachum. Just like he is merciful, you should be rachum. Noisen lechem lechol basar v'rachamav al kol ma'asav. His mercy is upon all his creatures. We should do the same. But it seems that there's no obligation to spend a lot of money. And if these cows, sheep, dog, whatever it is they're suffering, one can kill him. But it should be better, lichoira, not to shoot him. Because when you do shoot, you develop the midah of cruelty. So if you use the drug that the Ben Ish Chai suggested, you're not going to develop cruelty, or it's a little more removed. And lekule alma, you're not transgressing tsar ba'alei chaim. So lichoira, that should be the deciding factor. But does a person need to go in different places in the world, in the forest, in the woods, to try and look for animals who are suffering and try to heal them? Never heard anything like this. So when a person has his own animals and he sustains them, it's mistabir that's rotzon ha'torah. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants for you, to heal the animals and to show mercy just like he does. But he doesn't have to actively try to look for all the animals who are suffering all over the world. But it's very important to remember what Rashi says at the end of Parshas Bereshis, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides to destroy the world and to start anew. Why did he decide to do it? Because people were sinning. But if people are sinning, what do you want from the animals? What did they do wrong? Rashi, two opinions. He brings some Chazal. Either they also misbehaved, davar acher. Rashi says something else. If there's no humans, there's no need for the animals. Because the animals are here to serve us and not vice versa. So if there's not going to be any people here, why keep the vegetation and animals? They're only here for us. And that's the right prioritization that one always must keep in mind.
How about these people we have in this area, in this town? You know, usually on every street, often this height, and an elderly lady who takes on herself to feed stray cats.
She's a tzaddikus, and she walks in the ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Is she obligated to? No, nobody gave her an obligation. She decides to feed the animals, to be like HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who sustains all his creatures. Tzaddikus. Why not? Tzaddikus. Is she also allowed to sustain Talmid Chachamim learning Torah? I'm assuming the answer is yes.
You know that when you spend on the mitzvah, you can spend up to 1/5.
Up to a choimish. The Remas in Taf Reish Nun Vav Shulchano Orach Chaim.
We can say the same. When you come to heal an animal, you can pay the animal and up to a fifth. So it's a mitzvah.
It's not a complete mitzvah's essay from the Torah. You don't even have to spend 20%. Much, much less than that. That we say for a positive mitzvah that you're obligated. A little ashkafa in Yana de Yoma. More than a year ago, this terrible war started. And they warned us that if there will be a war in Lebanon, it's going to be very, very tough. You're probably not going to have electricity for hours and hours and probably days. We're not going to have water. They're going to hit all the infrastructure. Many people will die. Buildings will collapse. And now everybody say, they just scared us. No good reason. The Hezbollah is weak. You see that Lemaisa, nothing happened. And even when people died, most of them were our cousins. Up north in different villages. Not us. But the truth is, all those warnings, and when they tried to scare us, was 100% true. What we saw is miracles above and beyond derech hateva, not to understand. Tens of thousands of missiles are shot towards us in a way which is indescribable. It's mamish unbelievable. If we weren't involved in nonsense, we would be running like crazy in the streets, yelling, Nishma Stol Chai, Mizmo Lesoida, every day, all day long. So some people put their trust in the Iron Dome. But we should know that the Iron Dome's ability is very limited. It doesn't cope very well with hundreds of missiles that are shot at once. Unbelievable, Meiser. Erev Rosh Hashanah in Haifa. There's an Avrech sitting and learning all day long, and he goes to the store to do the shopping. Rosh Hashanah this year was Thursday, Friday, and then you have Shabbos. He has a lot of kids, and it's going to be a very big expense. So he shops, he has the list from his wife, and he keeps putting more stuff in the cart, and more and more and more. Then he goes to the cash register and stands in line, and there's a guy in back of him, and he feels that he's staring at him. He looks back, and this guy looks like a Russian guy, doesn't look Haredi at all, and he just stares at him, and stares at his cart, and stares at him, and stares at his cart. This guy didn't say anything. The line advances, it's his turn, so he puts all the stuff on the belt, and he's about to pay, and the guy touches his shoulder and says, "Excuse me, Rabbi, can I pay for everything that you're buying today?" He says, "No, Chas v'shalom, no, Baruch Hashem. I have my wallet here, I have my credit card, it's okay, thank you very much. Please, Tzaddik, allow me to pay." He says, "What would you want to pay for me? I'm good, thank you very much." He says, "I'll explain later." He says, "No, it's really fine. I have enough money to pay for this, it's fine." "Rabbi, please allow me to pay. I will explain later." He insisted, and he begged. So he agreed. He paid. Then they stepped outside, and he says to him, "Look, I work for Rafael. You know what Rafael is? Rafael is where they develop the Iron Dome, the advanced defense systems. It's an Israeli defense technology company. They develop weapons and military technology, and they are responsible for this Iron Dome. I'm involved in the Iron Dome itself, in developing it, and I have a whole team that works with me. And you should know, Israel is not the only place where they use the Iron Dome. We sold it to many countries. Many of them just are testing it, and some are actually using it. And we found here in our offices an unbelievable thing. In Eretz Yisrael, the success rate, interception of this Iron Dome is more than 90%. That's not normal. It's not supposed to function like that. And in all the other countries that we sold it to, it doesn't reach these numbers. And we're trying to break our heads, what's going on in Eretz Yisrael? So everybody in the team came up with different ideas. Maybe it's the wind direction. It's the wind's strength. It's the topography. It's the hills. It's the valley. It's the this. It's the that. And we find some places in the world which are pretty much the same as ours, but they don't reach these numbers. And we're breaking our heads and we can't figure it out. I decided I know the reason. In Eretz Yisrael, there are many people like you. You look like a person who dedicates his life to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Torah, you sit and learn. And I think it's because of all the Avrechim that are sitting and learning, you are the ones protecting Klal Yisrael. You are the ones who enable this Iron Dome to reach these unbelievable numbers. In other countries that they're using it, they don't have Shomrei Torah, and definitely not in these great large numbers that we have here in Eretz Yisrael. So I figured it's only right before Rosh Hashanah to say thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to show my appreciation to you that you are the real ones who are protecting Eretz Yisrael. I'm unbelievable. What's that? I heard it from Adam who was Naaman, a very Naaman person who told me this happened in Haifa, Erev Rosh Hashanah. So Lemaise people say, fine, unbelievable miracles. You know what? I don't need the miracles, I don't need the war. Why do I need the miracles? Because I have a war. I don't want the war, maybe I won't need the miracles. Pashut. The answer to that is very simple. There was a father who had his kid and he told him not to do something. And the kid misbehaved. And the kid knew it. So the father had to give him an educational patch. And he gave him that patch. But with so much love that the kid almost didn't feel it. The smart kid doesn't ask, Abba, why did you hit me? He realizes the father did it with compassion, with rachamim, with love, to correct him, to show he shouldn't fall into that place again. The foolish kid, he says, why'd you have to hit me? Don't you see the rachamim? Don't you see the love? So it's not a secret. The spiritual level in Eretz Yisrael now, we see amazing things. A lot of Torah is learned. But we also have a lot of issues. And I'm not talking about our brothers and sisters who are not in the Parsha yet. I'm talking about us, because the HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaks to us in the language that we can understand. He doesn't speak to French people in Chinese because they won't be able to understand it. He's speaking to us. So we know we're not the greatest tzaddikim. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a pash. Ooh, wow, what a pash. But a pash with love, because we saw the love, we saw the rachamim, the open miracles. And that should propel us to action, to change our ways. And when we change our ways, they won't say in Shamayim, a pasuk in Yirmiyah. The pasuk says, Lashav hi Casey. I hit them for nothing, they didn't figure it out. They didn't realize. They didn't change their ways. Chas v'shalom that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will say that in Shamayim. We must acknowledge the unbelievable open miracles, but we also must acknowledge that this came to us for us to better ourselves. And when we do, and we change our ways, then we will only know Tov and Chesed, and that will pursue Klal Yisrael, and Emetz Hashem, the world entire, with Besuras Tovis in all our homes. I just want to end with Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, but I just, been saying it for more than a year now. Many years, but the last year, every single day. But I looked at it, it's much unbelievable. Every single word is talking about the hostages. Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, Hanesunim, but Tzara, what is Tzara? It's not just trouble. Tzara comes from Tzara. It's very narrow. They don't have room there. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take them from Tzara, or Shivya, captivity, and will take them from, have mercy, Mitzara, Reuvan is going to make it white. Me'afela, from darkness, because they're in the tunnels and they can't see anything. Le'oira, Mishiach, for being enslaved to the Hamas, Yemach Shemam V'zicham, Ligeula, to freedom. Emetz Hashem, Ashta Ba'agal, V'zman Koriv, V'noimar Omen.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.